Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching this video. In today's video we will be looking at a ZX Uno. This is a FPGA implementation of a ZX Spectrum. And this particular device, a bit like the Mist FPGA, can can replicate on an FPGA the hardware for other systems. The ZX Uno by default will only replicate 8-bit machines, where something like the Mist FPGA you can replicate 16-bit machines like the Amiga and Atari ST as well. Right, so what do we have on the ZX Uno? To start with, we have an RCA connector on the front. That's video, and obviously left and right audio channels. On the side here, we have a PS2 port. At the current time, obviously I've got a USB keyboard going to a USB to PS2 converter, the DB9 joystick port, and the earphone port where you can connect a tape player to if you want to load off tapes. On the other side of the unit, we have the memory card, which is there. Obviously we have a power adapter, which is there. And obviously I'm taking power via a micro USB here from a phone charger, which I happen to find easier. On the top of the unit you have the power indicators, an activity lights, the power switch here and the reset switch here. So if we press the reset switch and I pan up to my monitor, as you can see, we basically get the Spectrum's boot. At the current time, the unit is set to boot into 128K mode or USR 0, so it basically goes into 48K mode like any Spectrum that has a div MMC attached. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Right, where was I? Yes, as I was saying, basically if we reboot the unit and I go into the BIOS for the unit, you'll see at the current time that the unit is set to boot into the +2E ROM. So, as I was saying, or trying to explain earlier on, as with if you was running this on a real Spectrum, if you have a div MMC or another SD card loader installed, what 128K machines do is they always drop into 48K mode or USR 0 mode to basically allow access to the 128K architecture but to keep it under the 48K ROM. Anybody from the Spectrum community watching this, if I've got that wrong, please post in the comments. So let's see what we've got anyway. So we'll discard changes and exit so we get back into the Spectrum. So, as you can see there, we're in 48K mode. So if you hit Control Alt F5, as long as you've got the div MMC set up, then you will see the file selector. Obviously, as you can see, I've got a number of various things installed on this card. So if we go into ZX Uno, we go to ULA Plus, and we go to, I don't know. I've not opened any half of these, so I don't know what they are. We'll go for that one. Obviously, as you can see there, the image has got a greater colour depth than you would have regularly with a normal Spectrum. So obviously we can flick through some of the images. So if we hit Control F5 again, obviously the file selector has got a bit of a funny colour. So we'll have a look at a couple more of these. Yeah, oh well, I guess that is it for that one. So if we hit reset again, the unit will reboot, and obviously we will get back into 48K basic again, or 48K mode. Right, obviously as well as this unit having ULA Plus on it, you can obviously load original Spectrum games. As with the regular sort of divs that use EXO-DOS. You can load Z80s, TAPs, and I think you can load a couple of other formats, but primarily I use either Z80 or TAPs. So if we load that 128K, we should find that we get the nice music that you get with an EAY sound chip, as you can see there. As you see, it reproduces the Spectrum in all its glory. Even with the colour clashing, brings back memories. So, if we do Control Alt F5 again, we'll this time go to load a tape file. We'll go for Dizzy. We'll go for the original Dizzy game. So obviously, it's past loading everything there. So if we press space, we can obviously move around the level. Hit reset again, and that takes us back to the boot screen. Right, there's one thing I do want to say on this one. If for whatever reason you don't have the correct version of EXO-DOS, or you don't actually have it installed on the card, when you normally would press Control Alt and F5 to bring up the file selector, you will get nothing. You will get a beep. You'll get a loud beep, and that's it. So obviously we've had a quick look at Dizzy, had a look at the ULA stuff. Obviously there's a number of other, I've got a number of other games on here. Some of them work, some of them don't. One thing I have found with this is some games that will work on a proper Spectrum for some reason won't work on this, and I've not quite worked out why. Some of them that have sort of got crack loaders or have been modified to work with Kempston mice and a few other things. The way this unit is configured at the moment, it will not work. It basically just dies. So I just thought I'd make you aware of that one. Classic one for that one would be Lemmings. That's got a Kempston, instead of using the Kempston joystick, it's set to use the Kempston mouse. So whoever did that ROM, obviously, whoever did that tape file, spent some time in converting Lemmings over to use a Kempston mouse instead of a Kempston joystick. But at the current time, with this with the ZX Uno as it is at the moment, I can't. If I load that, 9 times out of 10 it crashes. So what I've had to do is I've got a cable on order that'll basically take a PS2 mouse, a PS2 keyboard, convert them together to allow it to be used with the still PS2 port on the Uno. Bar that is really the only sort of thing under the Spectrum I found. There is one bugbear with this unit, whereby obviously you've got video output. You can either go to VGA or you can go to PAL. I found a couple of the cores, particularly the C64 one, and I think it was the Acorn Electron core. However much I tried to get them to work with VGA, they wouldn't. All they would do was go out via the RCA. And to be honest, the TV I've got is a LCD TV, and it really doesn't look very good. So, bar that is the only sort of minor issue I've come across so far. Most of them, I mean, this one, when I got it, had some different cores installed. So what I've gone and done is, you can find the instruction online, is I've upgraded the cores. With regards to upgrading the cores, do not upgrade the ZX Spectrum core, or try and replace the ZX Spectrum core with a different core. It can seriously, you could brick the unit. It's cores between 2 and 9 that can be swapped, changed, swapped, updated, whatever you want to do with that. This unit does also have another peculiarity, whereby I've got the Acorn Atom, C64 and Sega Master System twice. I put a post on the forums and somebody said it's potentially just a graphics glitch or a glitch with the menu, so basically as long as I remember in myself not to try and upgrade those cores or boot, or again in here boot for those bottom three, I should be fine. Obviously most of what's in the BIOS is fairly self-explanatory. Obviously you've got memory test, sound test, tape test, input test the keyboard and joysticks. Obviously quick boot and that obviously does what it says on the tin. So I will just flick through them and let you have a read of those. Obviously the ROMs by default, as I said, it comes with the ZX Spectrum ROM installed. There's a couple of different versions on here. There's the 48K and there's the Plus 2E, as I say, which I'm currently using. There's the Pentagon clone. Obviously I've got a ZX81 and ZX80 emulator, a TK90X, not sure what that is, and I'm not completely sure what that rooted ZX Spectrum 4 is either. Obviously as well as that you've got a number of games that you can select. I believe on booting if you hold down escape you can choose which core you want to boot, but by default I will literally just change it in the boot order in here in the BIOS because I prefer doing it that way too. Any other way, as I said, suppose my only real bugbear with this is some of the cores, as I said, won't use VGA. They insist on going out the RCA, which is a bit of a twat, but something I've got to live with, I suppose. The other thing with this one is, at the current time, this will only emulate 8-bit systems. If you want to replicate or emulate a 16-bit system, it's not emulation. I'm going to get told off from that from people who know more about FPGAs than I do. It re-implements, like the FPGA, as I said, re-implements the hardware. Yeah, this will re-implement hardware for 8-bit machines due to limitations of the hardware on it. If you wanted to replicate 16-bit machines, I believe the person who I bought this ZX Uno off, which I think is 8-bit forever, is planning on releasing some hardware that does the Amiga and also does things like the Atari ST. Or you could, from Lotharac in Poland, you could order a Mist if you wanted to. But that's up to you. Obviously there are other videos on YouTube on how to use a Mist and things like that. As I said, to basically change which ROM you would boot, you basically just select it in here. So, for instance, I select the Master System ROM, save changes and exit, yes. This should now boot, yes, Master System Selector. So we go to SMS, and we'll choose one of the Alex Kidd ones. So we hit reset, bang the hell out of F2 to go back to boot. I will go for the ZX Spectrum again, save, exit. And as you can see, we're back in 48K mode. One thing I will say about the Master System core is I've come across a couple of games, primarily Xenon 2, which won't work on the Sega Master System core. It doesn't work on the Master System core on the ZX Uno, and it doesn't work on the Master System core on the Mist. I get the same thing, it basically messes up. It's not the ROM image because I've used a emulator which will emulate the Master System and Game Gear on my PC, and that ROM image works fine, so it's something to do with the cores for both the Mist and the ZX Uno. But as I said, you'll find 99% of the games you want will load. As I said, there's some cores that obviously at the minute will only go out via RCA, but if you decided to buy one of these, you'd soon work out which cores they are, or have a look on the ZXUNA site. Yeah, I think that's about it. As I said, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Bye.